Welcome back. So in the last video we looked at where our values are stored in memory and how they're stored in memory, and what we're going to do now is look at how we're going to store the addresses of where the stuff in memory is. So I'm going to start by creating three variables. Okay, so short A, car B, and int C, and I'll give all of those values. So I'll give A 12, I'll give B 8, and I'll give C 42. Okay. Now, if you don't know why this can be 8, go back to very early on in the lectures. Okay, car holds a whole number. All right. So let's go and draw where these would be stored in memory. So this is just for the example. The memory management unit handles where stuff's stored in memory, so we don't really get a say, but we can show it for our examples. And we've got an int, so I'll put the int here. And that's going to be A, that's going to be B, and that's going to be C, and they have some values in there. So the values of A is 12, the value of B is 8, the value of C is 42. Okay, so remember, we're not going to look at it in binary at this stage. In reality, it is stored in binary, but we need to learn a couple more things before we look at that. Now, the next thing is that what we want to do is be able to store the address of where these values are stored. So for A, I want to be able to store this value here. For C, I want to store this value here. And for B, I want to store this value here. So the first problem with this is, what do I store it in? What type do I store it in? Okay, so it is 4 bytes, so maybe an int would be suitable, but no, because an int might change depending on the system. So an int's not a very good option for this. The other problem that we've got is our type must kind of represent how big this is as well as hold the address. Okay, so just having the address by itself doesn't tell me enough information of how many bytes does this span. So this is where pointers come in. So if I want to store a address, then I'm going to create a pointer, and how I create this is using a star, okay? And this indicates that I'm declaring a pointer. Now, when I'm declaring a pointer, I need to specify the type that it's pointing to. So I'm going to point to a short, okay? And then I need to give this pointer a name. So I'm going to call this pointer 1, okay? Now, we're not going to worry about storing anything in it right now. What we need to keep in mind here is we're going to do the other ones, and you'll notice something interesting about them. So I'm going to do my car pointer, so this is going to be pointer 2, and my int pointer. So this is pointer 3. Now, this is where most students make the biggest mistake, and if you understand this, it will make it a lot easier. How many bytes is pointer 1? So the number of bytes pointer 1 is 4 bytes. It has to store an address. How big is this second one? 4 bytes. How big is the third one? 4 bytes. So this short here, this car here, and this int here doesn't say the size of the pointer. The pointer is dependent on the system. Okay? So if we've got a lot larger addresses, then this would change, but all pointers will have the same size. So don't get confused just because it says short that it'd be 2 bytes, because the address that it holds still needs to be 4 bytes. So let's draw these out. Let's use red. So each of these pointers needs 4 bytes. Okay, so we've got one there, one there. I'll put one under B, I think, and I'll put one here. Okay, so this could be, say, pointer 1, this could be pointer 2, and this could be pointer 3. You'll notice that it doesn't matter what the type is, they're all the same size because they need to store an address, and the addresses are 4 bytes. Okay, so keep that in mind, repeat that to yourself when doing this. It will make it a lot easier to understand. Now, what we've got to do now is start storing the addresses. So we've seen this symbol before, okay? And when it's used before a variable, okay, so for example, we've got the variable name var, and we've got this symbol here. This is the address of operator. Okay, so when it's written before the variable, it's the address of operator. So it gives the address of a particular variable. So we can do something like this. The address of A. Okay, so the address of A is 0016 E567. Okay, so it stores that address. Remember, when we're talking about these, it always is the start. The fact that the pointer is a short tells us when we go and have a look at it to only look at those first 2 bytes. Okay, if you did it wrong and you stored, say, C here, when we go and look at it, we might go and have a look at these bytes here, which may overwrite data that's ours, or if it gets into one of these regions that's another program's memory, we get what's called as a segmentation fault and our program crashes. So you need to make sure that what's on the left-hand side and the right-hand side are the same. Okay, and we'll look at that in a little bit more depth soon. So pointer 2 would be suitable for storing the address of B. Okay, so here we'd store 0016 E575. And pointer C would store the address of C. So we'd get 0016 E56B. Okay, so this is how we store addresses. Okay? Alright, so in the next video we'll look at doing this on multiple lines and how to double check that you're doing this correctly, because if you do this incorrectly, you can crash your program. Okay? So we'll leave that to the next video, and this is storing addresses. Alright, thank you.